Welcome to another episode of my story, The Table, an extract from the book Celebrate Recovery Africa. Rick Warren says, "You've undoubtedly heard the expression, time heals all wounds. Unfortunately, this isn't true. As a pastor, I frequently talk with people who are still carrying hurts from 30 or 40 years ago. The truth is, time often makes things worse. Wounds that are left unattended fester and spread infection throughout your entire body. Time only extends the pain if the problem isn't dealt with." This was a foreword in the book by Rick Warren. Today we have two guests. We stay in the line of great love, great loss, and great hope. My guest today is a mom. She's a co-author. She's an editor and entrepreneur, Alicia English. And the professional at the table today is Pamela Stevens. And I have to read her title for you. She is a Specialist Wellness Counsellor. Ladies, welcome to the set of my story.
Thank you.
It's lovely being here.
Thank you. Alicia, your life drastically changed a year ago.
Yes.
And you've been invited here through somebody that I know that recommended you on social media. And then I started to kind of stalk you. And you tell your story so well. And a lot of things have happened in this past year, in your life, in the life of your children. Won't you just tell our viewers your unique story?
Wow. Thank you. It's a little bit weird when I hear people say that they've stalked me on social media. But essentially, Rhonda, I always tell people, firstly, I'm a Mitchell mom of 3 boys now. And I say that because, they are my world, and more so in the last year and a half. On the 17th of January last year, I had that very unfortunate task of calling my kids into a room and telling them that their dad had passed away in hospital. My husband of 10 years. My husband, no English. He was 45 when he passed away. And he was the most amazing guy. He was a devoted husband, devoted father, very present, very active, loved ministry work. And both of us actually tested positive for COVID in the week of Christmas in 2020. And just the Saturday before that, he actually went on a hike with some of the guys. And he came home and he felt a bit tired and he thought, it's been a while since the guys have gone for a hike. And lockdown has also happened. And then and he went to take a nap and then he wasn't feeling that well and we tested positive. And then on the 17th a week later, actually on the 26th of December, which is Boxing Day, I had to basically rush him to hospital because he wasn't doing that well. Although I was also positive, but I, had to drop them and we said bye to the boys. And the next time my boys saw him was, in person, was, at his funeral. Sure. So it's been an incredible journey for us. For myself, I've got 3 boys. Malachi is 19, Matthew's 8, and Joel is 4. Mm-hmm. And in fact, Joel was 2 when his dad died, and Matthew was just 6, and Malachi was in matric just the year before. So he was 17 at the time. So I can say that I'm so thankful because really it's been through God's grace that we've been able to stand after about a year and a half.
And just earlier on, Alicia, we were chatting casually around the table about how death changes life and how your status has changed. Yes. You go from a Miss once upon a time to a Mrs. And all of a sudden, I'm not even sure if we're a Ms. or widow or yes. What title do we have now? And just how did that kind of impact your life?
Yes. I think I still struggle to call myself a widow. And that is why I think when people ask me to introduce myself, or I go and talk to people, I introduce myself as a Mitchell's Plain mom, because I identify with my community, but I identify with my boys. I cannot tell them that I'm married to somebody anymore, although I feel still that I am married to this person. I also don't particularly like the idea of being said, I'm single. I am not single. And I don't know, you will tell me, maybe that's a little bit crazy, but I tell people, I'm a Mitchell's Plain mom because that's what I identify with. Because the other part of it, I'm not there yet, So it has changed everything about how you see yourself, how do you look at yourself in the mirror? How do you conduct yourself? As we were miking up, of course, and I said to the camera operator, ek wil nie my man se naam laat val nie. I still attach myself very much to Noel, even though he's not with us anymore. So it's changed everything. Between my sister-in-law and I, we have this joke. There's sometimes we'll say, okay, this is Noel's wife speaking. There's no die meisie wat nou vir haar gedra. And then Alicia's the crazy one,
Yes.
So I've almost developed that two identities after Noel's passing.
Yeah.
Noel's wife and then Alicia,
And then we was talking about how it changes your social life, how it changes going to church, how it changes family events and functions, and so take us down that little journey of how your world changed on the loss of your husband.
Everything has changed. Noel and I were, I almost want to say, inseparable, although we weren't always together. But because I had a sometimes demanding job as a magazine editor. He was a tire technician for Golden Arrow Bus Services. So, but we would meet each other, at night, and he would be with the kids, and when I had to work late, etc. But we went everywhere with our kids. So if we went to the beach, we would take our kids with us. We hardly did date nights, right? That was mostly for maybe if it was our anniversary. But we did everything together. On a Saturday morning, he would be the one doing the shopping. Because as I mentioned, at the time, my little one was 2. So Noel, since I gave birth to Joel, Noel was the one going out on a Saturday morning to do the shopping. So he kind of just continued with that after Joel turned 1, etc. And just the other day, Matthew said to me, if Daddy was here to do the shopping, we would have food in his house. I think he was looking for something other than Johannes.
Yeah.
And so everything in my life has changed.
Absolutely.
The way I attend church has changed, because Noel and I were quite involved in ministry. I'm still a cell group leader, but it's been difficult, just going to places where he used to be, I've just become a soccer mom.
Yeah.
Noel was the one who went with our eldest son to soccer practice, and
So you have to fall.
So now I've got so now being at the soccer field now with Matthew, the middle one, it's strange not having Noel there, because I know for the fact he would have been the one, who would have taken the lead in that.
There.
So all that familiar spaces in your home, for a long time I wouldn't go to my bedroom, because that was my space, my sanctuary with him, and now he's not there anymore. In the afternoon, so we used to attend services in the morning and the afternoon together, and in the afternoon, I would, he would get up first, because ek lê nog so 'n bietjie laat in middagslaapie, and I would see him in the corner getting dressed at the window, and you glance like wives do. They look at their husbands and catch a sneak peek and so on. And so now I lay in my bed and I look at the window at his cupboard and he's not there. But I remember that. So it's those kinds of familiar spaces and
the routine of
the
morning and
yes.
evening,
yes.
as we spoke about earlier on.
Absolutely.
That has changed
It has
our
changed
entire lives.
entirely.
Yeah.
And at night I used to have somebody to talk to.
Yeah.
You know, sometimes I think, you know, when we just had Malachi, he would sometimes come into our room and feel almost left out because it's sleeping time for him, but he hears mom and dad laughing or talking, you know, and doesn't want to miss
in on it.
Yes,
Yeah.
you know, want to miss out.
Yeah.
So having that one person that was mine, you know, no was mine. Yes, he was father to my kids, our kids as well. But missing that, so that familiarity of having that one person that is in your corner, even if he's not by your side.
I know.
It changes everything.
So for me, and Pamela, you can maybe come in a little bit on it. For me, is seeing other couples at dinner, couples walking on the beach, couples coming into church. That's when I feel my loss the most. And I almost envy people that are now dating or walking hand in hand or married. For me, it brings a little bit of jealousy and envy. So from your expert opinion, is that normal? Am I also crazy? So help us to navigate what she's just addressed and alluded to.
So that is part of your process, and that's where you're at now. And that's also fine. You can acknowledge your emotion to say, today I am envying that. I am feeling jealous, and that's fine. Next year, it's going to be a different emotion. So does that make sense?
Absolutely. Absolutely. So you've heard a little bit of Alicia's story. You know my story from chatting. Are we doing the right thing? How are we navigating well? Is there anything else you can help us to navigate this journey? Please help us to process grief.
So what you both went through is also very traumatic. So don't forget that you also went through a lot of trauma, and your body remembers trauma. And then the grief, it's a physical and emotional pain. A lot of things can surface. If you were diagnosed beforehand with PTSD or depression or anxiety, losing a loved one, that will trigger it. So it's always also good to just make sure that you're seeing your professional person, and also choosing your people around you. Choose your people, not people that are going to make you feel there's something wrong with me. I should be doing this. You should be doing nothing. You should be being kind to yourself. Whatever works for you.
Yes.
If you're not having a good day, tell your people, today is not a good day. I don't have the emotional capacity. Let's see tomorrow. And that's fine. And if people want to judge you, that is not your people.
So choose your tribe.
Choose your tribe.
The people that you hang with. I think I saw on your Facebook one of the things you posted it about your people. You mentioned like your village or your people, your tribe.
Absolutely.
And
it's very important to have a support system. I have the most amazing support system, you know. I fortunately have both my parents still with us, and my siblings, my in-laws. I still have a mom-in-law who's still with us, and they have been the most amazing group of people. My faith community. I don't think that I could have done what I've been able to do if it had not been for those people who have, you know, been by my side. I would often joke and you know, Noel's sister Delphine, she's incredible, you know. She's not left my side as if, you know, whenever I go do shopping, most of the days, when I go do shopping still, Delphine is at my side, you know. When we need to do shopping for the kids, you know, she's by my side.
Well done.
Need to, you know, so having that kind of support system makes such a huge difference, you know. Being able to call my mom and say, vandag voel ek nie so lekker nie.
Today I'm not feeling great.
You know, or calling my dad and say, you know, ek weet nie hoe gaan ek maak nie, you know. So
I
so
don't
being,
know how to get through this.
absolutely. So being able to do that is incredible. And I have also over the past year and a half met other ladies who have lost their husbands, and they don't necessarily have the support system that I have. And I've seen the emotional burden that they've had to carry, you know, and not just necessarily for myself, but even my sons have benefited from having, you know, such an amazing support system. So when I feel that I'm not alone, they also benefit from that because I'm able to carry myself better. Or even though I do have my, you know, definite moments where I cry, and it doesn't mean that it's not there. But it's just that you know that when you fall, you've got something to fall back onto, or someone, you know, in your corner. And it's like, I found it incredibly, you know, special,
Healing,
and
beneficial,
and comforting.
Yes,
you know,
yes.
to be able to say that I do have some people in my corner.
And so Pam, so maybe explain to us who don't know the professional side of the psyche, of the human body, of emotions, and to our viewers, what is grief?
So there's no recipe.
That's the word I'm looking for. There's no recipe
for anyone. What will work for you might not work for you. So if you have your introverts that they'll just want to stay home and be alone, that is fine. Where other people will want their people around, as we said. So it is all very individual.
Okay. Thank you for that. So what we're going through is very normal.
Absolutely.
21 months into my journey, I feel that I cry less. But I could be sad more. Is that okay?
It is fine.
Is it
As
fine?
I said, it's part of your process. That's where you're at. And acknowledge your emotions.
And we're going to be okay, aren't we?
Yes.
I feel that, absolutely.
Yeah.
And I like the book that your child and you wrote. That is therapeutic. And I'm sure it was very therapeutic for him. So that's what he needed at that point to get through that. Where another child might want to go play soccer or want to go do whatever feeds them. So it depends.
Yes.
It depends from person to person.
So on that note, that you brought up the book, we come back to you. How did I Miss My Daddy come about?
Wow.
Because I'm excited about this, that you are this co-author with an then 8-year-old Matthew.
Then 7-year-old,
Or
yes.
7-year-old. And how did it come about? Because we want to leave our viewers on a high.
Yes.
We've now talked about this sad, morbid topic,
Yes.
and thank you for sharing your unique story. And we identify with you and we appreciate you. But now we want to lift the mood.
Yes.
And this is such a good mood lift. I was excited when I was referred to this.
Yes. So, you know what? I mentioned at the start, I think in the introduction also mentioned that I'm an editor. So I'm a magazine editor. I've done that for a number of years. And so we know past, I was at home for about 6 weeks. I couldn't go back to work immediately. I've asked for extended leave, which my company at the time, they afforded me. And I was extremely grateful. So when I had to go back at the start of March, within the first 2 weeks, I struggled to cope, you know, because of the grief process, you know, focusing, etc. And I think after 2 weeks of being back, although I was still working remotely, I actually handed in my resignation and I finished up at the end of April. So during the month of May, one day I was sitting at home with my 2 younger boys, Matthew and Joel. And Matthew was busy doing some, you know, drawings with crayon drawings. And we were watching, you know, some old videos of Noel at the same time. And Matthew said these words. He said, you know, Daddy was a really funny guy. And then he said these words, Rhonda, that really struck a chord with me because I was sitting on the couch, just, you know, chatting to them. And he said, I just really miss Daddy. And when he said those words, I cannot give you really a sense of how those words gripped me that day. And when he said it, it struck such a chord within me that I looked at him and I looked at myself. So, you know, as you would have encountered, because you're also a mom and grandmom. So, when you lose your husband, your instincts is to protect your kids, your grandkids in your instance. So my instincts has automatically gone to protect my kids. But as a wife, I was living in a parallel world, I call it, of where there is, being there for my boys, but I was asking God the question, why did Noel have to die? Not from a perspective of how could you let Noel die, but from a sense of what is supposed to come from this? Am I now just supposed to be this grieving wife and that's it? And, help my kids through the grief.
Single mom.
And be a single mom and just go on with my life and just, yes, we will know that I had a husband and they had a father. And it's also the reason for that question was because both Noel and I served the Lord. I still serve God, as a Christian. And we know that Christ gave his life for a greater purpose so that we have, that quality of life. And I needed to believe that something great was supposed to come from this, something meaningful. And when Matthew said those words, I just really missed Daddy. Immediately came the inspiration to do a book.
Wow.
Initially I thought of it as a scrapbook, but as I started asking him some questions about his dad and memories, and I spoke to him asked him specific questions about, when his dad got ill, when he was in hospital, the funeral, going back to school, etc. And because he was only 7 at the time, it wasn't like he could write, full-on sentences.
Yeah.
So I basically jotted down his words, and I think within the space of less than 2 hours, I had the words. It's a children's book, so it's not like that many words.
Yeah.
I had that, the words for the book. And that is where the inspiration came when I looked at them.
Amazing.
While I heard him, while I saw my own question of what is supposed to come from his death, I also saw many other children who lacked that support system, who do not have a voice. I've been able to give my kids a voice.
Yes.
And that is where I decided to actually have it done professionally.
It's beautiful.
Illustrated by an amazing illustrator called Jay Rabi. And that is where the decision came then to do the book and donate it to under-resourced schools.
I love that.
And we launched it on the 25th of August last year, which would have been Noel's 46th birthday.
Amazing.
Wow.
So in my head, it's a legacy to
Yes.
Noel. It's a legacy, but it's also a self-help book, but a legacy to Noel, a remembrance to the children for who the
Absolutely.
man is, the father, the daddy. So well done and congratulations on
Thank you so much.
I Miss My Daddy. And Pam, you can just end by the good that came out of something so sad and so sorrowful.
So absolutely, that book is really going to help a lot of kids going through that can't even think of how they're feeling. So maybe when they read that, they can acknowledge, all right, this is how I'm feeling today, and that's all right. So thank you for doing that. Yes, so I've got a few tools that I can give for people that are going through what they're going through. But as I said, it's also there's no one recipe. So for some people, a grief journal can help. Writing down how you're feeling. And at the end of the week, you can go and see, all right, I've had a good week, I've had a bad week. A little bit wobble, that's also fine. And then when you are ready, and also it can be after 6 months, 10 years, 20 years, a goodbye letter. I also find that helps to write whatever you still wanted to say to your person. And then breathing exercises. If you're having a bad day, just to calm yourself down. And I mean, you can also teach your kids when things are feeling too overwhelmed, put your feet on the ground and say, I am grounded, this is fine, and you breathe. And then also like routine, if you like exercising, go back to that. But when you are ready, when you're not ready, that's fine. It's okay not to be okay. So, yes, things like quiet time
Love that.
in the nature, that also helps a lot of people. Keep it simple. You don't have to read all the books. You don't have to overwhelm yourself. Keep it simple.
I like that.
Okay.
So Pamela, thank you for sharing that absolute poignant pointers for us. For me, journaling has always been part of my world. And that's how my book is going to, that's how my books come about. I like the part of writing a farewell letter. That's amazing. So I take that. And then, of course, I like self-care. I like solitude. I like walking on the beach. That does it for me. Alicia, thank you for sharing your unique story.
Thank you so much.
This platform is for people, ordinary people like you and I, who share their unique stories. And I think that everybody has their own unique story to tell. So thank you and thank you.
Thank you.
If you enjoyed this episode, won't you please like, share and subscribe? And we'll see you next time on the set of My Story, The Table.